I'm sure it'll come up when it starts to record. Okay, thank you everyone for taking time out your busy day to come and join us. I'm hoping you'll find it worthwhile. We have a lot of colleagues from SQA on the call today, as well as a lot of our colleagues from centres. So I will do a quick introduction of the people that are here to support today's event, and obviously my glamorous assistant Gillian Hepburn, one of our regional managers, will be helping us to pick up on any questions. So today's session is recorded. I would ask that everyone remains on mute because there are a lot of people in the call. We have the message box, so please pop any questions that you have into the message box, or raise your hand and we'll pick it up at the end. There is a Q&A session at the end. I know a lot of centres have submitted some questions, so we will do those first, and then we'll open it up to everyone else to put any questions forward or ask any further questions. So just a wee reminder of what today is all about. This webinar is about the movement to solar to online. We realise that a lot of communication has gone out from SQA over the last wee while, so since March last year initially, and some centres are apprehensive or a bit anxious about the move to online. So we're hoping that today's webinar will remove that anxiety, and will also give you the knowledge that there's a huge amount of support for you there. There are regional managers and various other people available to support you through the activity. I'm just going to check. Okay, there we are. So, call out to our regional managers and BDCs. There are a lot on the call today. I'm not going to go through them all, but they are all here. And if anyone has questions, I'm sure they'll capture them and get in touch with you if need be afterwards. If anyone hasn't moved to online, I'll just reassure you that it will be easy. And we have our solar team here also who are going to give you an overview of how easy that is going to be. And I'm pretty sure that once you move over to it, you'll wonder why you didn't do it a long time ago, because it's that simple. So here we go. So I'm going to do introductions first. My name is Juliet McGinley. I'm the Senior Operations Manager in Operations HMBQ. I've got responsibility for quality assurance verification activity and training and deployment of our external verifiers. I also have on the call today Gillian Hepburn from Regional Manager. I think you are the Area Regional Manager for the rest of the UK, and I'm sorry if the title is not completely correct, Gillian. Close. Do you want to introduce yourself, Gillian?
Hi, yes, my name's Gillian Hepburn. I'm the National Manager, so you were quite close, for our Regional Manager team in England, Wales and Ireland. So I just want to say a warm welcome to everybody on the call this morning, but an especially warm welcome to our customers from those areas. I hope you enjoy it, and as Juliet says, any remaining questions at the end of the session, just funnel those through your regional manager and we'll do our very best to help.
Thanks, Gillian. Can I ask Caroline Hunter? She's also on the call.
Morning, hi everyone. My name's Caroline Hunter. I'm the National Manager for Scotland. So welcome all those from Scotland, and I hope you find it's a worthwhile session. Just as Juliet said, if you've got any further questions after the session, please get in touch with your account manager who'll be able to help. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. Can I also ask Caroline Kerr to introduce herself?
Hi, good morning. I'm Caroline Kerr. I'm Solar Manager, so I work with the Solar team to develop and create content for digital assessment. And we're here today just to talk you through how to move across, how it all works, and just let you know where to get support from us if you need it.
Thanks, Caroline. I know we also have Derek McParlin and Scott Cowan from your team as well joining us as well. Can I also ask Peter Primrose, for those of you who may already know Peter. Peter, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, hopefully most of you do. I'm Peter Primrose and I'm the Qualifications Manager for Streetworks and various other areas of construction. So I'm really looking forward to this session, getting all your questions, because it's been a long process to get to where we are. I think it's been about 3-4 years potentially of various communications going out to centres. So it'll be good to try and get all those questions answered. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. And finally, we have our Senior External Verifier, Charles McLeod. Chick, are you there?
Yes, good morning, Charles McLeod, Senior External Verifier for Streetworks. So hopefully I'll be able to assist Peter in answering any of your questions. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chick. So the method in my madness there was to make sure that they were all here and available to help support through the webinar. Just been a wee bit sneaky. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just, I'm going to hand over to Carolyn, who's going to do a little bit of a preview on what we're going to show you today. We are then going to show you a video, a pre-recorded video, and then we'll move into the Q&A at the end of that. But please pop any questions you have into the message box. Gillian and I will pick them up as we go along and hopefully answer them at the open Q&A session. And you can pop your hand up at the end if there's any questions you want to ask of us directly. So I'm going to hand you over to Carolyn. Carolyn, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming along. I hope you enjoy this. As I said before, my name's Carolyn Kerr and I'm the Solar Manager, and I'm joined today with my two colleagues, Learning Technologist Derek McFarlane and Project Officer Scott Cowan, and we'll be on hand to answer any questions, any technical questions about solar itself. Before this, we've actually prepared a short video which details the different steps that you'll need to use solar for Streetworks assessments. This video actually reflects some of the changes that are coming, which will enhance the experience for both you and your candidates. And afterwards, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. Afterwards, please remember that we update our website regularly. So if you type in SQA Solar into Google, you'll be able to find us there. And we'll put any updates, any changes about what's happening in all things solar on there. We also have a dedicated help desk that's available Monday to Friday, 9 AM to 5 PM. And you can contact us via that website. There's also a chat bot on the website as well if you want to ask questions there. We have a wealth of guidance materials on that website. So if there's something you want to refresh, again, you can go back in and just double check it and follow along with all the different videos that we have there. And also if you have an urgent inquiry, so if something happens on the day and you want to talk to someone technical, then we do have a dedicated helpline number. That's 0345 213 5060. So now I'll hand over to my colleague Derek, who will play the video for you. Derek.
This training video will show you how to get access to the solar website and to the solar system to do online tests. We would request that all members go through our training materials, and you will find these in our guidance section. And the training videos will show the majority of functions that are required across the system to help you to interact with all the areas you're required to. Once you've completed these videos, we would ask you to go to the Centre section and New Centre and Subject Access Forms and fill in the short online form so that you can get access to the system. We will send you an automated email which will allow you to set your password and a security question. We would suggest you make the security question a relatively straightforward one, like what is my centre name? Once you have access to the system, you will go to the solar website homepage and select Centre Login. There is a specific login for all Streetworks centres, and once you select that, logging into the system, simply use your username and password. Once you've logged into the system, you would see three sections: Home, Test Administration and Setup. To be able to create additional users for your centre for those to use, and for candidates to be able to schedule them for their tests, we would go into Setup. We will create a single candidate first of all. Our training materials provide guidance on creating single candidates and to do mass upload. As I said, we will create a single candidate. The information you need to fill in for a single candidate is first name and last name. The gender can be entered if you wish. A Scottish candidate number, which is a candidate reference. If you do not have a candidate reference or the Scottish candidate number, please do not attempt to create the candidate record. You then enter the candidate's date of birth. Please do not enter any information related to candidates' email addresses or telephone numbers. You can also set a candidate's record to apply additional time for any candidates such as dyslexia, and this will apply to every test which you set them for. Please review SQA's guidance on assessment arrangements. Once you reach this section, it will ask you which centre you want to apply to the candidate. Your centre will probably be the only one listed as default, but you still need to tick this. Again, once you've selected the centre, you need to select the subjects. And again, even if there's only one subject listed, please tick this to apply this to the candidate. Then press Create Candidate, and your candidate is in the system ready to schedule. If you wish to create a user, select the User section and create a user. Now, again, these are all listed in our training materials and our guides, but you can follow these simple steps. Every user has to be applied to centre level, so you would select that. And then the information you need to provide for this is name, first name, last name, a username for your user, and you would create this by doing their initial, the surname, and the last 4 digits of your centre number. Please do not use any other means to create a username, as this can cause problems for people's access in the system. Once you've completed that, press continue. You will then be asked to link them to the centre, and you can do this by clicking the Manage Centres button. Again, your centre will probably be listed as default as the only one, but please again select it and move it across and confirm. Once you reach this section, it's actually applying the permissions for the accounts, and you would do this again by ticking 4 boxes. Here, 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 and here. Once you get to the next part, if you create your user, you will then be asked if you want to create multiple users. You can repeat this process to create multiple accounts. Each individual user must have their own separate accounts, and no account should be shared. Once you've created your candidates in the system, you are then able to schedule them for their tests. To do so, you would select Test Administration. Test Administration has various sections, the first of which is scheduling your test. To schedule the test, please select Schedule Test. You now proceed through a variety of steps to create the scheduled test for your candidate. First of all, you need to select your centre. Yours again will be by default, but you still need to select it. The subject required, again select, and the specific test you want to schedule for your candidate. We would suggest to review this by how many candidates actually need to be scheduled for a specific test, as opposed to how many tests for an individual candidate. This will help you in your scheduling process. If you wish to set up a test for multiple date range, and by that we mean you're able to access this once for a one-time only within a date range, you can select multiple date test. To start, you press the icon button for the start date, and you can then select the date you wish to start your test on. If you start your test more than 5 days from the date you schedule, the key code, which is the access for the candidate, is not immediately generated. It will only be generated once that 5-day range has been set. We will set from today's date. To set the end date, you select the calendar again and select the date. You can then allow your candidate access on any of the dates between this date range, but again, as stated, only once and a one-time sitting only for the duration required. We would say not to set start and end times for your test, as this can cause problems for your candidate on access and finishing. However, if you do need to set these, please allow for 30 minutes minimum on start times and end times. Once you're happy with these, press Next. You can then select the candidates you require to schedule for this test. You can do this either by individual selection or by Select All. Once you're happy with your selection, then press Next. Please ignore these sections on scheduling for invigilation and changing the language applicable for the test, unless you specifically need to select for invigilation, and we would suggest to review the training materials on scheduling for invigilation before you do so. You will then see a summary at the end of what you've actually scheduled for your candidates. So these are the selection of candidates you have applied for the specific test. If any candidates have assessment arrangements, this will show up in the duration of being given additional time. Once you're happy with your selection, you would then select Schedule Test. To see your key codes, press the Invigilate tab. As you can see here, these are the tests we have scheduled and all sitting for a state of ready. When you go to actually give access to your candidates by giving the key code to sit the test, you should check the Invigilate tab to make sure that the status for all these tests is at ready. If it is not at this status, either please contact us or review our training materials for guidance on status. Once you have scheduled a test and wish to give your candidate access to that test, you can select either the key code and pass it on to them, or you can actually print the key codes. To do multiple key codes, what we would suggest is to use the filters and then select all applicable, or you can individually select and still print them. This will again give you a standard invigilation pack, and you can select whether or not you wish to have attendance register, invigilation report, and the key code slips. This will print off the key codes required. In this instance, what we will do is simply select the key code and input it into the system. So we're going to copy this key code. We'll go back to the SOLA website, the home page, and then the Enter Key Code button is for all candidates. So select that. They will see the box to enter their key code. Then press OK. What they should do is obviously check that these details are correct and that is the correct candidate listed and for the correct test before they press Confirm. Again, they're then asking to check that they're happy with the conditions and pass on again. The candidate can then obviously continue with their test, answering all the questions applicable. And once they're finished, they should then press the Finish box in the top corner. They will then get a confirmation part about finishing the test. And once completed, they will then see their automatic result. All of these questions are all computer marked, so a candidate will instantly get the results once they're finished. To review results for tests which have just been sat or from the past, please go to Test Administration and the Results section. As standard, this filter will only show you 30 days worth of data. If you don't see anything here, you would have to edit the filters to the applicable dates required. If you click on individual candidates' records, you will then also have an opportunity to see a breakdown of how the candidate has performed within the test, so that you can review individual sections and provide tailored feedback.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Derek. Just to let you know that today's webinar recording will go on the web, and we'll also put a copy of that particular video beside the recording of the webinar. And Carolyn, I'm sure that you've said that it will also be available on the SOLAR site as well, so you can access it through a couple of different areas. We'll put links, excellent, there she goes, links for you to set us straight into the chat. That's how good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're giving you the video, and I'm sure that people will probably want to see that video and look at it a couple of times themselves, and I expect that there will be a lot of questions that may come from that. What I'd like to do is coordinate those questions through your regional managers or through the contact number, and also the site that Carolyn has posted in the message chat. So we'll put lots of links to the various different contact areas within the message chat. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to our questions that have already previously been submitted. I'm going to read them out exactly as they've been submitted. I'm not going to say who they've been submitted by. I'm not going to do that to anyone, but I will read the question out as it's submitted, and then I'll call upon certain people to give the responses to those questions. So if you bear with me just 1 second, I'm going to pull that over in front. Okay, our first question was, our centre was notified by SQA that there has been an issue with correct answers on SOLAR being marked as wrong. Has this issue been addressed, and how, as an invigilator, can we be expected to know what questions a candidate gets, what answer the candidate gave, and whether it was marked correct or wrong? And I'm going to call upon Peter Primrose. Peter, are you there?
I certainly am. I'm getting feedback. Just a quick answer to that one. Really, the invigilator is there during the assessment to ensure the assessment is carried out in accordance with the requirements for the Joint Council of Qualifications. They should not be marking at that point. So the invigilator is not there to assess the candidates, they are just there to view the assessment. If a learner feels that they have received an incorrect mark, they should follow the Centre Appeals policy. Also, when you are reviewing the marking, as you just seen in the video, you can review the questions and see where they've actually got an incorrect mark. And if you feel that question is incorrect, you have, as a centre, the right to change that mark and go through the SOLAR process to achieve that, so that the candidate appears as being passed. The questions are being reviewed at the moment by Hawk. We've had a couple of iterations of them. They aren't quite ready yet, but we are hoping to have those addressed quite soon, and we will update you when that's been done.
That's great. Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, I'm hoping that answered the question, but please, if the responses that were given don't answer your question completely, can you just pop a question into the message box or raise your hand and we'll come to you once we work our way through them. Second question that was submitted is, bear with me. When we set up a candidate onto SOLAR and enter their details, schedule their tests, can this not be adapted, used as a candidate entry registration from CREO to prevent double work by centres and SQA staff? Carolyn, I'm going to call upon you to answer that question.
Currently, unfortunately, no. As you saw during the video, you do need to enter your candidate details. Now, we are working with our business systems colleagues to try to address that, to connect SOLAR to other systems in SQA. So hopefully it shouldn't be a long-term solution, but for the moment you will have to enter your candidate details. And just to make sure, just to clarify something there about the difference between users and candidates. So candidates, just to be able to sit the test, the only interaction they have with SOLAR is the key code you give them and that key code entry screen. Whereas users are people who can schedule assessments, who can view results. So you can set up other users if you need other people at your centre to be able to do those activities.
Sorry, Carol, I'm just going to call on the question that's been put into the message box. Back noise. So the question that's just been added in is, introducing the option to upload candidate ID photo would be helpful with the SWQR team could access to simplify the ID card processing. Is this feasible? Carolyn.
We currently don't have anything that we would be able to upload an ID photo. I'm not entirely sure that would be GDPR compliant from our standpoint, but it's not a functionality that's available at the moment. Okay, thank you. What I'll do is I'll carry on with the questions that have been submitted, and then I'll come back to anything that's in the chat box. So the next question is the current need to employ a separate invigilator to oversee the knowledge assessment going to be compulsory for the observation of practical skills as well? Is the conflict of interest assumed to influence the questions the same for assignments, exercises and practical works? And I'm going to call upon Peter Primrose to answer that question.
Hi, Jill. Thank you for that question. We cannot see any foreseeable circumstance that would lead us to envisage this as a requirement for practical. It really is only for exam conditions and invigilations required. I would also, in answering this question, I would also like to point out there's no need to employ a separate invigilator. The invigilator could be within the centre as long as they are compliant with the requirements of the Joint Council for Qualifications. And this could include a reciprocal arrangement between centres. So if you know somebody in another centre who's available to invigilate, you could bring them along. You don't actually physically need to employ a separate individual. As long as they've not been involved in the training of that candidate or that set of candidates, they can be the invigilator.
Thanks, Peter. You may as well stay online because I've got another question I think is going to come. What options are there for candidates who may have reading issues? Will there be audio versions or will there be an option to scribe for candidates?
Okay, again, it's within the assessment strategy. There is in 10.3 of the assessment strategy, candidates requiring additional requirements or reasonable adjustments for examinations should inform the centre, and any such arrangements must be in accordance with our policy and procedures, which you will find on the website. So there is indeed an option for additional assistance.
Hi, Julia. Just to let you know as well, there are technological things that can happen as well. Obviously, that in agreement with what Peter said before, but I think Derek might have some more information about what could be available on Solar.
Okay. Derek, do you want to?
Yes, sorry, I'll jump in there. Essentially, when you go into the test, we didn't go into all the details of it because obviously we made the video far too long, but there's a preferences and settings part in the system as well, so a candidate can actually change the screen layout. So essentially in terms of colour schemes to make it better for them if they want to do that type of thing. Also, the system is actually compliant with screen reader, and there's an open source one called NVDA we found works exceptionally well with the system as well, so there's a screen reader option in there as well.
Thanks, Derek. Okay, the next question that's come in is, what hardware will be allowed to log on to a question session if as I am guessing, the candidates' own phones will not be allowed? Will it mean a centre needs to invest in iPads or laptops? Will this then be the demise of smaller centres who do not have separate computer suites? Carolyn, I'm going to come to you in relation to that.
Yeah, so currently what's been tested that we know definitely works with Solar are PCs and laptops, but Derek can give some more information in terms of iPads and tablets. Derek?
In essence, again, as Karen said, the main ones we've got 100% tested with the software supplier are laptops and PCs. We're obviously involved in testing for Chromebooks. Mobile phones are definitely not an option because the screen size would be far too small. But also we are reviewing how the site will work with iPads and tablets. There was an app related to that, which was a Flash one. So again, we're working with the software supplier to see if we can update that to an HTML version as well.
Mm-hmm. And we will also update the website as soon as any of that becomes available and let you know where we are with that work.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Thank you, Derek. Okay, the next question is, can the assessor also invigilate the Solar examinations? And I think I already know the answer to this one, but I will hand over to Peter.
Okay, and again, the answer's in the assessment strategy as per 10.5. Centre staff providing any training prior to invigilation cannot carry out invigilation. Invigilators should receive adequate training to enable them to conduct the exam, again in accordance with the Joint Council for Qualifications guidance. They should not become distracted, and the invigilator, again, as I said before, must not mark completed examinations while examinations are being undertaken. There are no further restrictions.
Peter, can I just ask you to confirm the date when paper examinations can no longer take place and the Solar and move to Solar is compulsory?
The last paper examination can take place on the 31st of May, which I think is midweek. Let me just double check that actually. Yeah, 31st of May. Now, although that's the last date for a paper assessment, we will still accept results for those tests for 2 weeks. So on the 14th of June, we will stop accepting results for paper. But as of the 1st of June, all assessment must be taken online through Solar.
That's great. Peter, can I just ask you to pop those dates into the message chat for anyone that's coming to look at this at a later date? So it's just a wee reminder and a wee notification. So the next question I'm going to move to Carolyn for. I'm reading it exactly as it's come in. It is very time consuming scheduling each unit reassessment individually. Are there plans to make this more time efficient? If I have 10 candidates assessing on LA Learning Outcome 1, 2, but they're all on different dates, it has to be scheduled 10 times. Is there a way around this? The bulk upload template doesn't seem to work for this purpose. Carolyn.
Hi.
Whichever one.
So scheduling is done by test and not by candidate. You might notice that in the video, but Derek can maybe give you some options about how you can combine a few things and make it a bit easier for yourself.
As Carolyn's saying, essentially it's designed to be delivered by test and bulk in terms of that. So the only thing I could really suggest in terms of your work activity is to review how many candidates are actually due to be sitting a test for a duration, because essentially the schedule window is open for an extended period. That schedule window is about 6 months. So even if you know monthly how many candidates are actually due to sit a particular test, you can actually schedule them across that date range and work it that way. So it's essentially, again, thinking how many candidates are actually sitting a particular test instead of how many tests an individual candidate is doing at one time.
Derek, can I just keep you there just for the one more question, which I'm pretty sure you will be able to answer. Okay. Do you have to download any specific software to use Solar?
Essentially, for the version they're doing, the HTML version, no, it's literally browser access complete. Essentially, as we said, it's not currently set up the way we've delivered it in the video, because again, we weren't sure whether or not it said us we're obviously doing it straight away. If you do need to do it straight away, please contact us and we'll obviously work through that with you. By the time this is coming to online, essentially you go to the Solar website, you'll click that centre login, get straight on a browser, and again, a candidate on laptop or PC can go to a browser delivery, click enter key code and enter it straight away.
Okay,
so no additional software.
One of the questions that's just come in, Derek, is how long does each test take?
I think they're 45 minutes, is that right, Peter? Off the top of my head?
Yeah, 45 minutes, or if they have additional needs, they can have an extra 30 minutes, obviously.
And I think that's in the document that's on the Streetworks, the new revised conditions. So it actually tells you how long is in that document as well. Okay, let me just check to see if there are any more. Why are the new Streetwork codes not used on Solar or Connect? It's still using the old codes, which can cause confusion. And I'm going to ask Peter to come in on that one.
Yeah, sorry, had struggled to get off mute there. Yeah, it's quite confusing for us, unfortunately, as well. What has happened is in England, they changed the unit code numbers initially. So all of the initial codes that were in use stopped being applicable in England, but they were still applicable in Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Scotland then caught up with the change of legislation and adopted the same numbering system, but the old numbering system still applies to Wales and Northern Ireland. So really, to make it less confusing for all centres, we have stuck with the initial numbering system. So it's not confusing for Wales and Ireland, and people who were already using the systems knew what the numbers were, so could easily correlate them. Now, I'm quite happy to speak to Solar to see if there's a way we can deal with it, but at the moment that seems to have been the sensible approach, because Wales and Ireland were meant to catch up quite quickly. Unfortunately, that's not happened, and obviously COVID has made that period even longer. So I'm not quite sure when that's now going to happen, and we're not getting any indication from Wales there's an appetite at the moment to change legislation. So it is something that we now do probably need to look at. So I'll take that on board and take that away from today.
Okay, there's a couple of questions in here that I'm just going to ask. I think you've probably potentially answered some of them, or the video has answered them, but ask them anyway because someone has submitted them. And Carolyn, I think this one will be for you, but I think you may have already mentioned it. Are there any plans to integrate Solar and SQNet when the results could be instantly uploaded to Connect?
Yes, I would love to do that, and we are in talks to make that happen.
Okay, that's great. What I'm going to do now is, what we will do with the questions that have been submitted is we'll create an FAQ, and we will get the questions and answers that have been put up today as part of this Q&A session, and we'll put them up with the video and up with the webinar recording so that everyone can see what came in. We won't publish who submitted the questions, we'll just publish the questions and the answers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the chat, and hopefully we can answer some of the questions that have come into the chat. So Carolyn, Peter, Charles, hold on to your hats just as I work my way through some of the questions that are in here. So there has been a mention that it's vital to know the IT requirements to purchase sufficient equipment to be in place and operational for the required dates. As a small centre, we would need to know the purchase tablets as they would be in place to store laptops, etc. Carolyn, or Derek, can I just ask one of you just to touch on that in relation to the IT requirements?
I'll take that if you want.
Yep.
Essentially, just to on the solar website, if you look in the About Solar section, right down the bottom is actually technical minimum specifications, and that's a link to the software supplier stating the exact specifications of devices, whether it be laptop, PC or tablet.
Thanks, Derek. I think this one might come to you also. We get told that we cannot deliver exams without the Surpass application. Has this now changed?
Essentially, I've put the answer to that thing, but maybe people haven't seen it. It's essentially the fact of by the time we come to do this full online, the HTML version will not require anything else. If you do actually want to try to do it today or tomorrow, if you please contact us, we'll work through that with you just now, because essentially this provision is essentially the full delivery come that end online point.
Okay, and I'll try and keep this, I'm trying to pick the ones that relate to you, Derek, as we go through.
That's fine.
How long till we get key codes?
Essentially, in terms of that's part of your delivery and scheduling, it's when you actually select that scheduled date. So as I said, if you said you set it from 5 days from today's date, if it was beyond that 5-day range, it's not immediately generated. It's once that 5-day date range comes into effect. So as long as you're within that 5 days, the key code's generated. You can go into the Invigilate tab and you can select those key codes and print them off.
Okay, that's great. Right, I'm not going to continue to try and scroll up and down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for people to put their hands up and ask any questions that I've missed in the chat, and I'll come to you one by one. So if you just raise your hands, I will go around everyone who puts up a hand for a question.
Juliet, there's Gillian here. There's a question about how quickly they can retake.
All right, Peter, are
someone
you there?
fails a test. Yep.
I am here again, struggling to get off of mute. My computer seems to be slow at responding today. There is no set timescale for when someone can resit an exam online. Again, I refer to the assessment strategy. I think it's an important document that the centres really need to read. There is no set requirement or timescale. However, what SQA as a rule of thumb say, and it's part of our guidance, is if the candidate actually has to resit more than twice going into a third time, the third time really should be the period where you start to think, does this candidate actually need some more training? And do an exercise with that candidate to understand their knowledge and where that knowledge is lacking. So, maybe 3 attempts, and then you need to say that this candidate actually needs retraining or more training. That's what we would say is a rule of thumb, but there is no specific set time scale for when a candidate can resit if they've failed.
Thanks, Peter. What I'm going to do is I know that everyone's probably aware of this and you've probably all been on and had a read, but the actual Streetworks subject page on SQA's website is full of information. It gives you the changes from the assessment strategy. It gives you all the documentation. So I'll just pop the link in the chat as well so that you can go in there and have a wee look if anyone's unsure about that.
Yeah, similarly, sorry, Juliet.
No
similarly, if you Google SQA Streetworks, it will take you straight to the website as well.
Peter, I'm just going to keep you on screen so that you don't go back on again. Will candidates still need to complete the unit summary paperwork and other exercises on paper?
Okay. Yes, the unit summary, well, it depends on what unit they're doing. If they're doing the initial unit, then they'll obviously need the practical assessment, and that's what the additional paperwork is for within the assessment record. So yes, that will still need to be recorded, just as an SVQ would need to be recorded when you're actually physically viewing evidence and gaining evidence through candidates' practical assessment. That is what that paperwork is for. The knowledge assessment is the only part that has to be done online or through paper at the moment until the 1st of June. But once it goes online, yes, you will still need to do the paperwork for the practical, and then you would need to do the online assessment for the knowledge.
That's great. Thanks very much, Peter. And thank you, Derek, for answering that last question that just popped up in there. I think I've captured them all. I'm going to apologise if I haven't, and I'm going to ask you to pop your hand up. And let's hear from you. If you've got any questions, let's let you do a bit of talking now rather than us doing all the chat. So if you've got any questions, can you just put your hand up using the wee boxes at the top, which now has the emojis as well.
I think Leslie Brown's got her hand up, Juliet.
Right. Yeah. Gillian, I can't see, so you're going to have to prompt me. Leslie?
Yep, Leslie.
Leslie, are you there?
I think Leslie's on mute.
Oh, here I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, can now,
Hi,
yeah.
Hi guys. Obviously with it all being new to us, and obviously we want to get this absolutely correct as best we can with all the changes. With you mentioned about obviously the paperwork that still needs to be completed. I remember obviously an email coming through where we have to, are we waiting for login details so we can upload all our information and everything? I was just wondering when that's going to be coming through to us.
Are you talking about the SQA Centre Hub?
Yes.
Right, okay. So SQA Centre Hub, we're rolling out to over 800 centres. At the moment, we've got about 600 online and we're working through the remaining 200. So if you haven't had a notification from our team or an email from Digital Workspace, then you should get one over the next couple of weeks. We're just rolling out the remainder of centres over the next couple of weeks. However, if you have been selected for qualification verification activity, you should have received a notification. So if you haven't, can you please drop a wee email, and I'm going to pop a mailbox into the chat, into operations HMBQ. And we will make sure that you're set up and you get all the access that you require. So anyone who has been selected for QB should have been contacted by now. So the problem is sometimes these emails go into your junk box and you're not often captured. So if it's the case, let us know by emailing us at operationshmbq@sqa.org.uk and we'll sort that out for you immediately.
Oh, lovely. That's great. Thank you for that.
Lily, yes, the SQA Centre Hub is where you can upload that information through for QB activity.
Juliet, I think James Parker might have a question. I saw him raise his hand on the screen.
Okay, right. James, are you there?
Hello there, I am, yes, yeah. Just, I might have missed it, just regarding the assessment fees, if a candidate has to retake, is there further fees for retake?
Using solar, I believe Carolyn can correct me, but there is no fee applicable on solar. It's only when you come to enter the candidate that the fee would apply.
So for the certification fees, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct, isn't it, Caroline?
Yep, there's
Caroline,
no fee for using solar. No
yeah.
fee.
So it's only when, if it automatically registered the candidate, then there would be a fee applicable. At the moment, that doesn't happen. So it's only when you actually process the entry onto the candidate record that generates a fee.
Lovely. That's answered that question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm going to call upon John. Is it Crana? Apologies if I got that wrong.
No, yes, you're perfectly correct. Thank you.
That's good.
Just a quick question. I did type it in the chat box, but it doesn't look as though anybody's had a chance to answer it at the moment. I just wondered, we've been using solar for a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years now, and have always obviously created the candidates, just like when we were logging them on. And I noticed on your tutorial there, it said that you can also create a user. What is the benefit of creating a user on solar as well as actually just logging your candidates on? Why should we be creating a user?
Okay, so there's a difference between candidate and user. So the candidate is just the person that takes the test, and that's how you can generate key codes. A user would be if you have someone else at your centre that you want to be able to, set up candidates, schedule assessments, and check results. Then that's what a user can do, and that just allows you to have more than one person at your centre that can do that if you require it.
Okay, thank you.
Juliet, you're on mute.
There you go. Rookie error. Rachel Pullman.
Hi there, quick question. Does the same key code apply to the resit? So you use the same key code that you used for the first exam?
I think that was answered in the chat earlier on. I think you get a new key code, but I'll let Derek or Carolyn just confirm that.
Scott, if you want to just confirm that. Scott Cowan.
Yeah. No, each test you'll need a new key code for that. The key codes are as specific to the test rather than the user.
Right. Okay. So if they fail the unit, then I then have to get a new key code for them so they can reset the test.
Yes, you'd have to reschedule the test, and they'll create a new key code.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, there's a question that's just popped into the message. As I work around IT equipment, would candidates be able to bring their own laptops to the centre, log on to the Wi-Fi, and then be given the key code to undertake the assessment test? I'm going to call upon someone in Carolyn's team to answer that.
Yep. Short answer, yes, they can. Yeah, if you're happy for them to use that, and you have invigilation in place, then absolutely they can bring their own device.
Can I just caveat that with we are still awaiting specific guidance from HOXO at the moment from an assessment point of view and from the qualification side of the house, and probably from verification, because I see Juliet nodding. We would say no, because it's not secure. You're not aware of what notes the candidate has on that, and although it's an open book assessment, they may have they may have other software that people can actually communicate with them directly on it. So we would say from a security point of view, no, please don't. We are still waiting on specific guidance, but we would say generally no to that. Sorry, Carly.
No, I would agree, Peter, from a QA perspective, we want to ensure the integrity of the assessment as well. So the security around that. Okay, I'm going to call upon, and I apologise if I get names wrong here, but I'm going to call upon Stuart Phelan. Stuart, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Going back to the fees, every time they take a research, say they fail the first one and then they do a second one, although there's no fees attached to the solar, you have to generate another passcode. So every time you re-register the course, there will be a charge. Am I right in thinking there will be a charge for registering the course? Registering the test, should I say?
No, I'll take that one. No, so what that would do, you would still have the same candidate and you'd be creating a new key code for them. And currently, Solar doesn't talk to any other systems in SQA, so there wouldn't be a fee attached to that.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
That may change in future when we introduce web servicing, though, just to make sure you're aware of that.
Carolyn, can I just keep you on? Can the Surpass app be used on tablets for the assessment?
Derek, would you be able to answer that?
Essentially, if you wanted to use it today, then the answer would probably be maybe. The reason for that is that it's not for the HTML. The app is currently, as I said, it's a Flash based thing, and again, you'd have to talk to us about in terms of using additional software to use that. The easy, and quick way we've done it is essentially showing you the browser delivery again through laptops, PCs. Again, hopefully in the future it'll be iPads. The tablet app itself is Flash based and requires additional software to run because obviously, as you're aware, Adobe has dropped Flash in terms of its service, so additional software is required to be able to provide that in a secure environment.
Okay, thanks, Derek. I'm going to call in Sarah. Sarah, do you want to pop in? I see you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it was just going back to what Stuart has just mentioned, just to sort of be clear on that. When you reschedule a test in Solar, you're not going to get charged because your candidate registration is going to go into the Connect system. So the Connect database is where we will pick up fees. You'll pick up fees. So you're only going to pass the candidate if they actually pass the test. You wouldn't fail them unless they've sort of took it 3 times, and then they may have to sort of reschedule for a full practical because that would be a new unit. So I hope that sort of clears things up as well.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Sarah. Peter, I'm going to just ask you a question that's in the chat box at the moment. Are we allowed to have permitted reference documents on the same computer to access during the exams?
I think the sensible answer to that is it has to be on the same computer, just for ease of access for the candidate. You don't want them jumping from one computer to another. Excuse me. What we would generally say, however, is it's actually better just if you can have the paper copies. I know a lot of these documents now are not available on paper. I think they stopped printing a lot of these documents a long time ago. So yes, it would have to be on the same computer. That's the short answer.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to call upon Carolyn's team again just to answer the question that's come in. Certain other test providers insist on fixed desktop machines to be used for delivery of test material, not laptops or tablets. Not really a question, but I just wondered if anyone wants to make comment on that from Carolyn's team.
Yeah, from our point of view, we want to be as flexible as possible for you and allow you to do within, obviously, the security of the assessment. We're always looking for solutions for different things that you're able to do. We're the techie people who want to give you all the functionality. So because that's available and as long as it adheres to the requirements, that's completely fine as far as we're concerned. We want to give you as many options as possible.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'm just going to look. Thank you, Derek. I can see that you're answering questions in the chat box as we go along. So anyone who's popped some questions in there maybe want to do a wee review. I'm just going to look at the last question that's in there. Within the online assessments began sat in an exam room at a dedicated computer per candidate. Is there a limit on how many candidates can be in this exam room at one time? If the room is big enough for, say, 10 delegates, can we have 10 delegates sitting in the online exam at the same time? Obviously, practical assessments have their own limit. Peter, Charles, do you want to come in on that?
I heard a huge gasp there from Charles.
I did hear that from Charles. I know that's why.
I think, again, this is something that I looked at last night when I was reading the assessment strategy, so I would urge people to read the assessment strategy. For the realms of invigilation, there is no upper number in candidates that can be invigilated. So if you're doing an online assessment and it's invigilated, as long as you comply with the guidance that is delivered by, and I can't remember the name of them now, I've said it so many times today, the Joint Council for Qualification Guidance, so i.e. there has to be a certain amount of space between the candidates undertaking the assessment. As long as your room is big enough, there is no upper number, but once you start to encroach on the space between people taking the assessment, that's when there would be an issue. So for invigilation, I don't see an upper limit. I don't know if Charles wants to come in with what he was gasping on.
No, I just agree with exactly what you said there, Peter. I was looking at obviously practical assessments have their limits. They've got strictly 6 and that's it. But for the invigilation, no, there's no ratio as long as it's fine with the Joint Council.
As long as it's within the permitted guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't have any new hands up, I don't think. I'm sure Gillian will correct me if I'm wrong. If there's any messages in the text box, I think we've covered them all. Please let me know.
Juliet, there was just one question I spotted, which was a question about browsers. So Carolyn or Derek, does it work with any browser?
Derek, do you want to take that one?
Essentially, as it's HTML, it should be fine across all the browsers. We don't envisage any issues in particular. As again, what we would say obviously is not Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is not actually a valid browser anymore, so please do not use that at all for anything because it's not secure for you. the systems at all. So again, anything other than that, if you do experience any issues, obviously please give us a call. We'll try and resolve that if you do experience any problems.
Okay, Gillian, is there any other questions we've missed in the chat?
Don't think so, Juliet. I think we've answered everything. If anyone's got one and we haven't spotted it, just shout.
Peter?
I have one question that may have already been answered and I may have missed it when I've been trying to catch up with all the other questions, and it's my own personal question. And I think it's already in the chat box, so it may have already been answered. And is there how long is it going to take to be able to access the assessments via iPads or any tablet rather than actually having to have a physical laptop or desktop?
Yeah, so we're working with the software supplier at the moment to test that to see if it currently works in the browser, as we would hope it would. If not, then we would need to look into a different tablet app, and we would then update our website to say when we think that might be. So we'll keep our website updated.
Yeah, I'm just conscious for centres cost-wise that it's a lot easier to buy, a few tablets than physical laptops.
Carolyn, can I just jump in? Or Carolyn or Derek, with regards to browsers on tablets, if they're using, say, the Google Chrome app, is that a workaround?
We currently haven't tested that. I'll just double check with Derek.
No, essentially that app is not a valid inclusion. It will not literally be with that. What they're actually saying is that it will be based on Chrome. So again, we will have to do a lot more testing to review all these applications and ensure they are obviously fit for purpose across all the items, the full system and detail. So I'm afraid I can't say that will be available right now. It will be something we'll have to test heavily.
Subject to testing.
Yeah.
Derek, can I just keep you on? Just a wee reminder, someone's asked a question just for a refresher. If we have a candidate with no SCN, can you remind us how to go about creating a candidate on Solar?
Essentially, you shouldn't be creating the candidate in Solar if you don't have the SCN, because that's the whole point. And the SCN is that unique identifier, because people keep saying, the candidate name, date of birth's in there, but you can get candidates with exactly the same name and possibly date of birth. So that's the unique identifier. It is also a field which is not able to be edited once it's put into the system. So again, please ensure that the correct SCN is put in and linked to the correct candidate. Otherwise, you'll obviously cause problems in terms of providing results and verification. So again, if you don't have it, please hold off on doing that until you get it.
Thanks, Derek. Just another question that's popped in. Has the way the exams are scheduled changed? The video looks a little different from the original video on Solar. Derek, Carolyn?
I can quickly answer that. It's essentially the fact that it's the HTML version you're seeing there. We're obviously trying to show you exactly what you would be seeing for that easy version as opposed to what's on, and that's the flash screens. That's the difference.
Okay.
And we're moving away from them as soon as we can.
Thank you very much.
Terry Hoodless has put his hand up.
Sorry, I was in the chat box. Hi, Terry.
Hi there. Yeah, we're already doing research, and we were doing it obviously through Solar and Surpass. So does that system go dead on the 1st of June, and those tablets won't work that we've been using, obviously, at this stage?
We can't give dates at the moment because we are currently testing to see if tablets will work with the new HTML versions of these tests. So we're hoping that won't be the case, but we'll update our website to let you know how these tests perform.
Right. So how long will the old system work before there's some sort of a big changeover?
We'll move over to HTML as soon as we can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the more stable version for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I was just going to quickly say, if you have obviously got the system up and working with that, and using the viewer, which is, as I said, that additional software, you could obviously carry on with that. It's just, as we say, obviously anybody who's experiencing problems in using that viewer, we're trying to move to the more stable and easier version of HTML.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't see any new hands. Gillian, have I missed any? My computer seems to be in a delay for hands being raised.
I don't think so, Juliet. I think we've answered everything.
Okay, so just a wee quick summary. The video, this recording will be put on the website and we'll pop a wee notification out on it. where it goes. We'll put a copy of the video, the recording, we'll complete FAQs from the questions that have been put in the message box, and also the questions that were submitted prior to the webinar, and they'll all be posted as well. If you have any questions about the SQA Centre Hub for upload of digital evidence, then please contact operations@hmbq@sqa.org.uk. The Streetworks webinar website is in a link in here also, and that has contact details for Peter's team, and Carolyn has also popped her contact number and web link into the chat as well. So all that is there and available for you. I'm going to call the webinar to close. I'm going to thank everyone for attending. I'm going to say a huge thank you to Carolyn, Derek, Peter, Scott, Gillian, and everyone else that took part in all the questions and answer session today. And I thank you very much. And if you've got any questions again that you think once you've watched the video again or the recording again and you think you really need to ask, please get in touch with your regional managers. And they'll be able to support you or through any of the contacts that were published here today. So thank you very much and have a good day, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.